Thank you all so much for taking your time this morning. This guy not to fall over in a controlled way. There we go. I think it's stable. Metastable anyway. I think this is the most important conversation that you can be a part of, for a number of reasons, and I'm going to try to run through the more conventional reasons quickly and then get to the more interesting ones. First of all, sustainability is happening, whether you like it or not, whether it be articles in Harvard Business or sustainability checklists, or my friend Yvonne Chenard getting the cover of Fortune magazine, or the evil empire going green. I mean, when Walmart goes green, Walmart commits to a program of sustainability, it's arrived. Why? Harvard said it. It's not the burden on the bottom line it was thought to be. It is the touchstone of all of innovation. And in the future, only companies that have sustainability as a goal will achieve competitive advantage. It's not about these guys. They're a long ways away. Yeah, they're threatened. Yeah, climate change is really real. And if we don't deal with it, it will hurt us. It is already hurting us. The IPCC report just out. It's real, it's human caused. And you know that here. The flooding that occurs, the violence of the storms that we're now seeing, the droughts, the number of billion-dollar disasters is going up every year, from one a year around 2000 to now over 10 a year. 2 years ago it was $14 billion disasters in 1 year. This, by the way, is of some concern to the insurance industry. But here's the real reason. Dealing with climate change is better business. The Carbon Disclosure Project has shown that the companies that are the leaders in reporting on and dealing with their emissions have higher returns. And I just got a number in. Of the 702 companies around the world that report to the Carbon Disclosure Project every year between 2008 and 2012, so this is following the recession, the leaders in reporting on and managing their carbon emissions achieved 5.2% higher return on equity, 18.1% greater stability in cash flow, and 1.6% higher growth. This isn't about polar bears, this is about your business. And a new study out from Carbon Disclosure Project shows that cutting our emissions 3% a year will bring savings to the US economy of $190 billion a year by 2020. This is about money. We know that the companies that are leading in bringing to the market disruptive innovations around cutting your carbon emissions are outperforming their competitors. Yeah, the science is uncertain. It's what science is. We argue about. Here's the science on climate change I like. And it doesn't matter. Now, I say this with all deference to the great climate scientists who are spending their lives trying to get their models to catch up with observed reality. Because at this point, reality is outrunning the models. But let's assume the skeptics are right. It's a hoax. Don't go to Vegas on the odds of that being true. But if all you are is a profit-maximizing capitalist, you'll do exactly what you do if you were scared to death about climate change. Because we know how to solve this problem at a profit. It's what the smart companies are doing. If you want the data, it's in the book that I guess is at the back of the room. The Way Out, Kickstarting Capitalism to Save Our Economic Ass. There are now over 48 separate studies showing that the companies that are the leaders in sustainability, in cutting their carbon emissions, are outperforming their competitors. When the wild-eyed environmentalists at Goldman Sachs tell you that the companies that are the leaders in sustainability have 25% higher stock value than their less sustainable competitors, there's a business case here. This was first put forth by my friend Ray Anderson at Interface. he came at it from a different point of view. He said, what's the business case for ending life on Earth? He did this because it was the right thing to do. What he showed was setting an ambitious goal. Mission zero, zero impact, zero footprint by 2020, was also the right thing for business. Costs down 4.5 million, sales increased by 2/3, profits doubled. Much of this you can do for free. You can get started in sustainability just through efficiency, just through better behavior, good housekeeping. My team, Toby Russell, who just disappeared, and Nick Sterling, Nick's in the middle of the room back here, we work with companies to show them how to do this. Team walked into a company that had 6,300 computers and monitors that they left on 24/7 because of some urban myths. Shortens the life of the computer to turn it off and on. No. IT needs it left on. No, one night a week would do fine. In this company, just publishing a policy, turn the darn things off if you're not sitting in front of them, would save them $700,000 the first year. This is free money. The economists amongst us will tell us this isn't possible. If these kinds of savings existed, they would have been captured. This is a real story. Ohio State figured it out, turned the computers off at night, saved themselves $250,000 a year, which they are now putting to their education programs. Ford Motor Company did it, they're saving $1 million a year. Lights. The team walked into a big warehouse, 7 million square foot distribution center, 500 watt light bulbs shining down on the tops of boxes. The guys down below had task lighting so they could see where they were going. This is inventory afraid of the dark. We said, y'all have a switch? $650,000, free money. When you get home, look around your office, your store, your home for the silly ways that we are wasting energy. And stop it. It's money in your pocket. It also delivers better performance. If you put daylighting, for example, in schools, you will get higher test scores. Walmart has started putting daylighting in their buildings because they get 40% higher retail sales. Trust me, Walmart is not going green out of the goodness of their hearts. Here in Illinois, Fallen cut their lighting 30%. LED exit signs, high efficiency lighting. They've got a goal of cutting energy 5% a year. Remember the 3% solution? They're 2% more than that. Four Seasons Hotel up in Chicago. Savings of over $300,000 every year. The city of Chicago has made a commitment. The mayor has said, we're going to be the greenest city in the world. They're looking at their buildings, and the building sector has enormous, enormous savings to be captured. Green buildings, the whole field is growing almost exponentially. By 2015, new buildings are going to be green. Why? Because if you live and work in a green building, you get higher labor productivity. 6 to 16% higher productivity of people in good green buildings. Do this across the economy, that's $200 billion a year that we would add to our economy. Now, you may not care about energy. If you're a business person, most of your cost is going to be in your people. But what you do about energy is what gives you the increased productivity in your people. And that's worth a dramatic amount more than any of the energy savings. And as you've seen, the energy savings are peanuts. The return on investment, 16% on average. Take a look at some of these measures. Return on investment, 23%. 50%, 160% return on investment. You tell me where you're going to get that kind of return on investment in your 401k. Not happening. And you can go measure after measure after measure. Listen. Hear that air handling? That's space heating. We're heating outer space. When you can hear an HVAC system working, it is not optimized. And when you optimize your HVAC system, you get these kinds of returns. So a group called the Carbon War Room has teamed up with companies like Lockheed Martin, Energy, Barclays, Y-Green, all of the participants in commercial building transactions to go after energy efficiency in the commercial building sector, starting in Miami-Dade, in Sacramento. They came out recently with a new report on energy efficiency of how much savings can be obtained through these programs. Billions of dollars across our economy, about 80 billion, just by looking at the commercial building sector. 87 billion just going after this savings. By 2020, it could be 245 billion a year. McKinsey projecting US savings of 1.2 trillion, that's with a T, on an investment of 520 billion. Again, this is just good business. Oh, and you start saving gigatons of carbon, which is what we need to do. You know, it's nice if we turn off our lights at home, but if we're going to defeat climate change, we need gigaton reductions. So Richard Branson and Jigar Shah teamed up to give gigaton reduction awards to the companies that are leading. Nike, Tesco, Philips, Schneider, Suntech, Swisscom, Vodafone, all have won gigaton reductions. What does this mean here at home? Per megawatt saved in a community, you generate over $2 million in increased economic activity. Over $500,000 in increased wages. And jobs, 10 times the number of jobs that you get if you invest in a central station coal plant, a gas plant, nuclear plant, although nobody's doing that anymore. Renewables are coming on very rapidly. Again, gigawatt additions to our energy supply from various renewables. 4.3 gigawatts from solar projected for this year, nuclear 0, coal's going down. We now have about 100 gigawatts of solar around the world and growing very rapidly. And I can tell you, when it flooded in Colorado 3-4 weeks ago, power went out. I didn't. I have solar at my ranch. We just kept on trying. Wind. In this part of the country, wind makes great sense. Again, we are bringing on more new wind per year than any other kind of energy supply. In 2011, we brought on more new wind around the world than the entire energy use in Japan. And I've never heard anybody call for an evacuation plan from a wind farm. Wind spills, that's a bad one. 33% of new US electric generating capacity came from wind. And look at the economics. In Little Beaver County, Utah, it's a poor area in Utah. They have no coal, which is traditionally what folks out in the West do for economic development. So the economic developer, a guy named Rob Adams, said, you sell what you have. He said, the wind blows here. We got a lot of wind. So he called up a wind company. They put in a wind farm. The tax benefits to the county of having that there are now paying for the schools. A school that was scheduled to be closed has been rebuilt. The jobs are higher paying jobs. And as a result, the tax base is going up. Again, forget the polar bears. This is pure economic development. Here in Illinois, you were 5th in the nation in new wind installations in 2012. You ought to be having windmills popping up everywhere. Mark Jacobson at Stanford has shown we can power the world on only renewable energy by 2035, and doing so is better business. Companies here, Wrigley, aims to be 100% renewable by 2040. These are the kinds of goals that our companies ought to be setting. Why? It's better business. It's better for the community, and it's a lot better for jobs. Since the recession, the green jobs have been the jobs that are growing. And in California, the green economy grew 3 times as fast as the rest of the economy. A quarter of the new jobs are in manufacturing. The green economy already employs more people than in the fossil economy, and much better opportunities. If our young people are looking for where are they going to get jobs, this is where. Occam Steiner, who runs the UN Environment Program, reckons we could create between 15 million and 60 million jobs worldwide over the next couple decades. These jobs in general are going to be in little companies, which is a good thing. Kauffman Foundation has shown since 77, in all but 7 years, the big companies have been net job destroyers. They're automating, they're offshoring, they're cutting workforce. Who's creating jobs? It's the little guys. My favorite little guy company, probably anywhere, is Portion Pack, from just up north of here. Marvin Klein is somewhere in the audience. Portion Pack has a booth back there. This is a company that has been green from its inception. Marvin realized that when you have cleaning products, mostly what you're selling is water. And so they concentrated the cleaning solution and they sell the little packets, Portion Pack, in color-coded bottles. So if English is not your first language, you know what to put into which bottle and how to use it. And in the floods recently, Marvin shipped a whole bunch of their product out so that we could spread it around to people who now have mold in their houses. Thanks, Marvin. I hope you're beginning to see this is not a red or a blue issue. My friend Jim Woolsey used to run the CIA. You gotta worry about yourself when you have a friend running the CIA. He drives a plug-in hybrid car that he fuels off the solar panels on his roof. He had a bumper sticker on the back that said, "Osama bin Laden hates my car." He put a big X over it, Osama. The military's going green. The Secretary of the Navy, Ray Mavis, has called for the Great Green Fleet to be half renewably powered by 2020. And they're already doing it. They're running frigates up and down the West Coast on biofuel. The F-18 Green Hornet, running on biofuel. Produced here in Illinois. Jonathan Wolfson, Solazyme, is taking pond scum and running Navy vehicles on it. This is the kind of business that we want to have in our communities. There's no silver bullet, but there sure is a lot of silver buckshot. We can solve these problems if we entrepreneur our way out. But let me tell you, it's urgent. Global Biodiversity Outlook 3. This is science from Dr. Tom Lovejoy at the Smithsonian. We are losing life on the planet. We're now in the 6th great extinction, this time caused by us. 3 of the Earth's ecosystems are tipping into collapse. Coral reefs, sorry scuba divers, business as usual. Perhaps as early as 2035, there will be no living coral reefs on planet Earth. The Amazon, this is a bit more serious, it's the Earth's lungs. And the oceans are acidifying. This is very scary. Not because we all like to eat oysters so much, but the phytoplankton, every other breath you take, the oxygen is generated by little calciferous critters in the ocean called phytoplankton. You acidify the ocean, they start to die. The phytoplankton are dying. Now, in a sense, who cares? This has happened before on planet Earth, at least twice, maybe 3 times that we know of. 60 to 90% of species went extinct, and yet here we all are. Life is amazingly regenerative. So as George Carlin says, save the Earth will be fine. It'll shake us off like a bad case of fleas. What we're talking about is save us. And we're up against it. Lester Brown, he has a new book out called Full Planet Empty Plates, highly recommended. He points out that business as usual, if China continues to grow at anything like the rate they have and need to avoid revolution, by 2030 they will want more oil than the world now lifts, or probably can ever lift. and more cars, coal, cotton, concrete. China is moving into cities, many of them not even yet built. 125 million people with more waiting to move into cities. By 2030, cities will be 3/4 of our energy consumption. China's looking at 400 million more urban dwellers. We're not going to have to make cities a little bit greener. We're going to have to make them a lot greener. So I've just accepted yet another academic post at an organization in China, in Shanghai, called the Dadao Academy, where a group of us will be coming together to work with Chinese students on how to tackle these kinds of problems in China. So the UN's pretty clear. By 2030, we're going to need 50% more food, 45% more energy, 30% more water. You start to run into the constraints of the round earth theory. Business as usual, we will need, 3 more planets to meet our growing consumption demands. Earth first, we'll mine the other planets later. I don't know where to get 3 more planets. So we are going to have to fundamentally rethink how we do business. Part of this is opportunity. In nature, carbon is not the world's greatest poison. It's the building block of all of life. My friend Janine Benyus asks the simple question, how does nature do business? Nature makes a wide array of products and services very differently than we do. Nature runs on sunlight, not big flows of fossil energy. No persistent toxins. Nature makes dangerous things. You ever been near a black widow spider? It doesn't hang around for hundreds of thousands of years like nuclear waste. Nature makes everything near to something that's alive, at room temperature, shopping locally. So companies are starting to use this approach, like Calera out in California. They asked, how do coral reefs make limestone? If you cut limestone into block, you often find little fossils. It was made by a coral reef millions of years ago. How do they do that? So they're taking the flue gas of a natural gas plant and misting seawater through it and making the equivalent of cement. Jeff Coates at Cornell University is making plastic out of carbon. I helped mentor a couple of young men from India who are making carbon nanotubes, carbon fiber, out of CO2 waste. We haven't even begun yet to innovate our way out of this problem. And the companies that are innovating are the most attractive to young people. They want to work for companies that have a commitment to green. But we're in for some real surprises. If you think about a volcano in Iceland disrupting global aviation, the rig in the Gulf catching on fire, Greece, and now the whole euro is at risk. Fenter created artificial life. We still don't know what the implications of that are. China's overtaken Japan. It's now the world's second largest economy, on the way to the first. The flash crash in the Dow dropped 1,000 points. Nobody quite knows why. Arab Spring, the Occupy movement. Pakistan, test firing nuclear-tipped missiles and then going underwater. The fires in Russia in 2010. The earthquake in Japan and then tsunami in Fukushima. That wreck ain't over with yet. It's going to get a lot worse. So what's next? I don't know. We're going to find out today, yeah? Jonathan Porritt, thinker in the UK, quoting Sir John Beddington, chief scientist of the UK, the unsustainability of the way we've been doing business, he said, is what drove the financial collapse. And until we turn business to a force for sustainability, we will just have collapse after collapse after collapse. Highly recommend you watch this video, Jeremy Grantham on Charlie Rose. And if you Google Grantham Charlie Rose, you'll come up with it. It's a 54-minute clip an interview. Now, why should you care? Jeremy Grantham runs an investment fund, Grantham Mayo Van Otterloo, over 100 billion in assets. So he knows a thing or two about managing money. One of the things he's saying is because of the reductions in US productivity, because of climate change and the costs it's imposing, and because of these resource constraints, we will be looking, if we're lucky, at GNP growth of maybe 1% a year for the foreseeable future. Think about the implications of that for the American economy. What we have now is broken. So it's back to the drawing board. We're going to get to reinvent the global economy, and there are a large number of groups that are starting to work on this. You may not have known, this is New Economy Week, told so by the New Economics Institute. And this event is part of New Economy Week. We had it badged as such. The New Economy Coalition is more than 50 groups that are working on an economy that's regenerative of people, of place, of planet, and that is based on democratic principles. About a year ago, I was asked by the Prime Minister of Bhutan and the King of Bhutan to work with a team of people from around the world to try to reinvent the global economy. And in particular of late, I've been working with the gentleman down on your right, a man named John Fullerton of the Capital Institute. And I highly recommend you go to the Capital Institute website, capitalinstitute.org, and read what he's writing. Now, again, why should you care? He was 18 years managing director at JP Morgan. He helped invent their swaps, derivatives business. He ran their commodities, private equity in Tokyo, London, Wall Street. And then he walked away to found the Capital Institute. He was one of the first to point out this concept that's now gaining some traction of the carbon bubble. If you've listened to Bill McKibben talk, the Earth can withstand something like the emissions of, what is it, 595 more gigatons of carbon on the asset books of the fossil industries and of many sovereign nations, Saudi, Venezuela, Canada, the US, are 295 gigatons of carbon, 5 times the amount of carbon that we can, 2,995 gigatons of carbon, 5 times the amount of carbon that we can emit and stay below a 2 degrees C warming. This has not yet been realized by the market, but it's starting to be talked about. Grantham's talking about it. A group in the UK, the Carbon Tracker, is talking about it. This, Fullerton reckons this is 22 billion. Conservatively, he now thinks it's maybe a trillion, 30 trillion of unsaleable assets. If these assets are sold, if we dig this stuff up and burn it, we all roast. It's over. How are we going to deal with absorbing that? By comparison, the mortgage crash that led to the 2008 recession was 2.7 trillion. So an order of magnitude more of unsaleable assets. As John puts it, landing this plane is going to be a mite turbulent. He's putting forth he's calling for what he calls regenerative capitalism. And he's put forth 8 principles of what regenerative capitalism will look like. With any luck, he and I will have an article in this week's New York Times as part of New Economy Week, and hopefully also HuffPost and Fast Company. We've teamed together with this group that was commissioned by the King of Bhutan to create the Alliance for Sustainability and Prosperity. And I invite you to join the conversation. What does a regenerative economy look like in your town, in your region, in the United States? Because we're going to have to reinvent the global economy. What we have now doesn't work. We're going to need education. I'm thrilled to be here today with Gifford Pinchot, founder of Bainbridge Graduate Institute, with Ron Nazer from DePaul, Eben Goodstein from Bard, and we will this afternoon be putting on I guess we'll have a panel on the role of education in helping to transform this economy. Because you've got 93% of CEOs surveyed by Accenture saying that sustainability is critical to their future, and yet McKinsey found fewer than 30 are actively implementing it. We need to turn out young people who know how to implement sustainability in a world in which everybody says, not my job. Education is siloed. Oh, you're an economist, you're over here. You're a biologist, you're over there. Never mind that biomimicry is probably the greatest source of inspiration for transforming the economy. What am I? What discipline have I stood up here talking to you about? I teach business. I was a Regents lecturer at Cal Berkeley this spring in mechanical engineering. I still don't know quite what that is. I've taught in universities around the world in a whole array of different disciplines. Because what we need to do is bring people together, as we do at Bainbridge, talking about what does it mean to do business in this new world? What does it mean to be an honorable business person in a world in which everything is in peril? So we had to wholly reinvent the MBA curriculum. It's called Curriculum 2.0, in which in the first year you don't study economics separately from accounting, from finance. It's all mashed together. Capitalism in context, values and value creation, means and measures. We study it as a whole. Illinois State University has a program on sustainability. They've reached ASHE bronze level. DePaul program on sustainability, ASHE silver. All new buildings will be leadership in energy and environmental design. DePaul has committed to cut its carbon footprint. As I mentioned, I teach at Bard. This is a brand new MBA program in the heart of Manhattan, in which we're using New York City. Eben Goodstein will be on the panel with us this afternoon. We're using New York City as a living laboratory. This is the Carbon Disclosure Project having the floor of the New York Stock Exchange about a month ago to announce the new study that I just quoted to you. Tom Rivet-Carnac, who runs CDP in the US, Paul Simpson, who runs CDP globally, with Steve Wesley, one of California's leading bazillionaire entrepreneurs, from the balcony of the New York Stock Exchange. And this afternoon, we will be talking about how to make sustainability personal, making it stick, creating a culture of sustainability in your company, and then sustainability in higher education. Just think about it. Go back to the first industrial revolution when we invented commerce, using water power to make iron and textiles. And then we moved on to locomotives, steam engine, James Watt. Where did that happen? Where did the first industrial revolution happen? Remember your history, Charles Dickens, England. And what was happening geopolitically at the time? The sun never set on the British Empire. The British Navy ruled the waves. This little island off the coast of Europe ruled the world. Why? Because they innovated. And then some fool found oil in Pennsylvania, and Henry Ford built a car, and Thomas Edison built a light bulb, and General Electric. And power started to shift across the Atlantic, until by the time World War II rolled around, the industrial might of Detroit was able to pivot in 90 days from making cars to making tanks and airplanes. The US entered the war, we won it, and this has been the American century. Because we innovated. Then the IT revolution gave us all these things in our pockets with 3,000 songs on them. I really didn't know I needed one until I couldn't live without it. But what's next? Remember, who innovates rules the world. What are our children going to be doing for jobs? We all going to be burger flippers? The service economy? Not if we want to retain any say in what happens around the world. We need to innovate, and the world needs us to innovate. It needs the green technologies. It needs biomimicry, whole system design, green buildings. My current hero is Paul Pullman. He's the CEO of a little startup called Unilever, who in 2011 said, I am not going to report quarterly. He said this short-term fixation of Wall Street is driving companies to ruin. And he said, we are going sustainable. He announced Unilever's sustainable living plan, cut their environmental impact in half while growing the company, source 100% of their feedstocks that come from something grown from sustainable agriculture, and lift 1 billion people out of poverty. Go, Paul! This is the kind of leadership that we need. This is the kind of leadership we are not seeing from Congress. And frankly, I think we will not see it from politics.